Relayers. My name is Jolene Wegstein.
And I'm Zach Dane.
And we are so excited. We're coming to you live from St. Louis, Missouri at the Top Performers Conference. And we are here to spend the next hour or so talking to some great Relay for Life volunteers and really just getting jazzed about Relay for Life and the American Cancer Society.
I'm Zach Dane. I'm a Relay for Life volunteer. I'm the Northeast Regional Volunteer Lead for the American Cancer Society. I'm originally from Long Island, New York, but now I relay in New York City.
Fantastic. And I'm Jolene Wegstein. I'm the West Region co-lead volunteer, and I relay outside of Sacramento in a small community, and we're just super jazzed about the opportunity to speak to y'all today.
So as Jolene said, we're live from the Top Performers meeting in St. Louis, Missouri. And earlier today and yesterday, we had a great conference with some of the top 82 teams that raised over $8 million last year. 82 teams raising $8 million alone.
That's amazing. So we want to make sure that we have some time today to get the conversation going. So if you are close to your social media and want to have some conversations with us, we'd love to chat with you. So if you could go ahead and use hashtag RelayTalk, we'll be happy to get those conversations going across the nation and maybe answer a few of those questions live today. So we know that over the 2018 planning season, we did experience some changes that happened as we kind of embraced this new idea of Relay for Life and community-based fundraising. We are really excited about how we're ready to rock and roll, and we've engaged volunteers and we've engaged communities in Relay for Life and the American Cancer Society and really fundraising to meet the needs of that community. So we want to thank you today for spending some time, spending this hour with us, getting familiar with the American Cancer Society, kind of reinventing and re-energizing what Relay for Life is and what can be for 2018. And we really just wanted to highlight these 3 R's that you're going to be hearing a lot about today. So the 3 R's for us, we have relationships, relevance, and revenue.
So talking about relationships, we're focusing on building relationships between staff and volunteers, as well as people within our local community. Because without successful relationships, we're not going to be able to achieve much, but at the end of the day, building relationships with people, both within our communities and within the American Cancer Society, has a great impact on us. Next up is relevance. One of the grounding things for us is how we bring everything that we do in the American Cancer Society back to our communities and to make sure that it actually matters to the people that we're there to support in our local communities. Lastly, we have revenue. We are a nonprofit organization and we do survive on the funds raised from community-based fundraising. And through those community-based fundraisers such as Relay for Life, we're able to make such great progress in the fight against cancer and further support the mission of the American Cancer Society.
So if we bring these 3 R's together, relationships, relevance, and revenue, we are sure to have a successful 2018 Relay for Life season as well as community-based fundraising. So with that, we'd like to go ahead and show a video of our CEO, Gary Reedy.
Hi, I'm Gary Reedy, CEO of the American Cancer Society, and I want to both congratulate and thank you for everything that you are doing to save lives, celebrate lives, and to lead the fight for a world without cancer. Without volunteers like you who are on the front line attacking cancer from every angle, this fight would not be possible. And that's why I'm so excited that Relay has gone back to where it started and what made it great. And that's with you, our dedicated and passionate volunteers. And I'm looking forward to working with you this year to make Relay strong on behalf of all of those who are fighting cancer each and every day. Now, our path to success is going to focus around relationships, relevance, and revenue. We're going to have to leverage our relationships and our relevance to make sure that we bring in the revenue so that we have a truly remarkable and fantastic 2018 Relay season. And I can tell you, there's never been a better time to be engaged with the American Cancer Society. We are positioned to become the most relevant and powerfully impactful cancer fighting organization in the world. And you know that our #1 mission priority is research. And we have made a commitment to double our research budget by 2021. Now, none of this is possible without a solid foundation of strong, committed, passionate volunteers like you who are leading Relay into the future. So thank you for everything you're doing, and here's to an amazing 2018 Relay for Life season.
Hey everyone, I'm now here with Steve Bell. He's a volunteer with the American Cancer Society. So Steve, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and why you're with the American Cancer Society?
Sure. Well, my journey with the American Cancer Society started about 20 years ago when I heard those words that you have cancer. So I'm a 20-year colorectal cancer survivor. And during the course of my treatment and going through chemotherapy, it had a profound effect on me because I realized that there were people that were going through that with me that had outcomes that were going to be very different than mine. And so when I got through my treatment, I really wanted to do something to fight back, and Relay for Life and the American Cancer Society gave me that opportunity to do that.
And that's awesome, and we're so glad to have you with us, Steve. So what is your role with the American Cancer Society?
Well, currently I serve on the Nationwide Relay Leadership Team, and I'm what's called the Volunteer Support Lead. So my role is really to ensure that support, obviously, is being given to our volunteers up and down and across the volunteer leadership model. And I'll get into that in a little bit more, but I also serve on the National Volunteer Training Team, and that gives me the opportunity to facilitate trainings on the Volunteer Learning Center, which is a great resource for volunteers.
Yeah. So speaking of volunteers, the American Cancer Society is a volunteer-driven, staff-supported organization. What does that mean to you, and how can you bring that back into our communities to make it more relevant?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it starts with the fact that the Relay for Life is a grassroots organization. Like you said, it's community-based. And really, I think Relay for Life gives our volunteers, and especially the volunteers at the event leadership team level, the opportunity, like I had, to fight back, to make a difference in their community, to allow their community to make a difference in the fight against cancer.
That's fantastic. And as I said earlier, we're so grateful to have you, Steve. So in your role as the volunteer support lead on the National Relay for Life leadership team, how are you working to ensure that we're moving forward within this volunteer-led movement across the nation?
Well, a lot has been going on in the last 6 months, as you guys alluded to earlier. We've gone through many changes that have really positioned the American Cancer Society and Relay for Life specifically to be a volunteer-driven, staff-supported organization. So what we've done over the last 6 months is put in place a volunteer leadership model, which is about 400 volunteers strong throughout the country that are there to provide support and resources to our volunteers at the event level. And I know that our ELTs are on this broadcast today, and also our event mentors, and it starts right there. So that's one resource that we have been able to provide. We've also put in many resources in the way of trainings that allow our event leadership teams to become more effective in their roles, to understand what their roles are, and to really make their events successful. And I encourage all of them to take advantage of these great resources.
I definitely suggest those as well. So what should volunteers do to lean into the communities and kind of do more for Relay for Life and the American Cancer Society? What can they do?
Well, first we need to recognize the seriousness of our roles, that we are making an impact at the community level, whether it is raising money or it's creating awareness or education about cancer and the issues related to cancer. So what we really need to do as volunteers, leadership volunteers at the event level, is to own those roles that we take on, and to make it take responsibility to become educated in what your role is, and to become informed about the American Cancer Society, so that we can truly be experts.
And what can we do to become better experts of the American Cancer Society and the mission of the American Cancer Society?
Well, like I said, it takes some initiative on the part of the volunteer. You need to reach out. We have put in place a support system as far as individuals go to help you to do your job better. And that's what I've talked about with event mentors. And then at the area level, we have focus leads, and we have all the way up to the region level that are experts that are able to provide training and expertise when it comes to learning specific parts about your role. Also take advantage of great resources we have, such as Relay Connect, which allows us socially to share with other relayers, and also the Volunteer Learning Center, which is what I alluded to earlier, which provides live trainings led by volunteers like myself that really focus on specific things like how to deal with confrontation, or how to make an ask, or how to work with your staff partner.
Yeah. So out of your experience within the American Cancer Society, what continues to drive you to move forward?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think the fact that I am working for the most relevant cancer fighting organization in the world, And two is that I believe we have the most talented and passionate volunteers in the world. I mean, there's over 1 million relayers. That's a lot of people that are passionate about a cause. I think the thing that's the most important is the American Cancer Society really empowers their volunteers to take control, to be leaders in the fight against cancer. And I don't know of any other organization that does it to that extent as the American Cancer Society does.
So what you're alluding to is the volunteer-driven and staff-supported organization.
That's correct. And I think that's very important. People understand that it's volunteer-driven and staff-supported. So at the event level, the responsibility is on the volunteers to make sure that event is successful, supported by staff.
So you mentioned earlier about the volunteer leadership model, or the VLM. If I'm an event lead and I want to get in contact with someone within the volunteer leadership model, what should I do?
Well, we're still working out a lot of those kinks, but believe me, we are working through them. But each event will be assigned an event mentor that'll be there as a resource for them. I mean, sometimes somebody just to get advice from, but also somebody that's going to be able to point you in the right direction and make sure you are receiving the resources that you need in the most efficient and effective manner as possible.
So if I want to become an event mentor, what do I need to do?
Well, what you need to do is I would initially reach out to your staff partner, unless you already have an event mentor for your event. That's certainly the easiest way, or your area lead. But if you don't know those individuals, then the best place to start is really with your staff partner. They can send you in the right direction.
Okay. So earlier you also spoke about some training resources. So what's a resource from the Volunteer Learning Center? And as you said, you're on the National Volunteer Training Team. What's a resource that you strongly advocate for?
Well, there's several. There are resources that are pre-recorded online trainings that can teach you how to more effectively serve in your role, whether it's as an online lead or sponsorship or a team captain. But what I'm really excited about are the live trainings that are conducted by our National Volunteer Training Team. And you can also find those on the Volunteer Learning Center. And some that come to mind just off the top of my head are Change Savvy, how to learn to work through change when it occurs. Communication, not confrontation, which teaches you how to have those tough discussions. We hope nobody ever has to have them, but they do happen. And how about making the ask? How many of us really have to learn how to make the ask to be able to frame our American Cancer Society story in a way that gets people enthused about learning more?
And you forgot to mention my favorite one. Sharing our story.
Yes.
Finding out how to create our own elevator pitch, because it's so important to have a quick 30-second pitch that you can do anywhere in order to share the benefits of the American Cancer Society and what you do for the American Cancer Society and Relay for Life. So with sharing our story, do you want to share your elevator pitch?
Oh my gosh. You put me on the spot there. Well, I think that for me, really, I guess as a survivor, the thing that's most impactful for me is to be able to walk the track at a Relay for Life during the survivor lap, and to be able to be with other individuals that I know are walking that track with me because of some breakthrough that was funded by the American Cancer Society, and most likely was funded by Relay volunteers. So to me, that is an incredible satisfaction, and that's to me the best story to selling Relay, is that we are changing lives, we are saving lives, and we actually have an opportunity at Relay to see those lives that we are saving in person.
Yeah.
I mean, what's more powerful than that?
Yeah, we're attacking cancer from all angles in order to move forward as a mission and support the American Cancer Society. So, with the Volunteer Learning Center, we have Sharing Our Story. Sharing Our Story is a great resource from the Volunteer Learning Center where you can log in using your standard traditional way to log into your Relay for Life event page, and then you could log into the Volunteer Learning Center and select a training that fits your time schedules. There's throughout the days and nights, and it's a great resource for you in order to figure out how to share your story.
The American Cancer Society offers valuable learning and leadership training opportunities for all volunteers through the Volunteer Learning Center. You can access the Volunteer Learning Center at volunteerlearning.cancer.org. Once on the Volunteer Learning Center, you can navigate to find courses across a variety of topics like change management, volunteer staff partnerships, and general ACS knowledge. We offer live virtual courses and self-paced e-learnings enhance your ACS volunteer experience and sharpen your leadership skills. This investment in volunteers is in service to our vision to be a volunteer-led, staff-supported organization. Sharing Our Story is a 90-minute course led by volunteer virtual facilitators and can be found in the All Volunteers folder. This course will help you craft an answer to the question, what does the American Cancer Society do? In order to do this, participants will learn about the key messages from our brand story and will learn some program facts and figures to help us be able to demonstrate how the American Cancer Society is attacking cancer from all angles. Participants will work through an easy-to-follow framework to craft their personal responses and will have the opportunity to practice with each other, helping you personally connect with our mission so that you are able to bring it to life when you are communicating with others why they should care about the American Cancer Society. We have a lot to be proud of, so sign up for one of our sessions today and learn how to communicate this pride and connect others with our life-saving work. You can also find this training and many other resources on Relay Connect.
Well, we've got some great information today so far from Steve and Zach on the Volunteer Learning Center. I have with me here today Danielle Dietz, who is our national co-lead volunteer for the National Relay Leadership Team. So Danielle, where do you relay and what brought you here to the American Cancer Society?
Okay, well, I relay in Sanford, Florida, and I've been relaying for about 17 years, and I was brought into the American Cancer Society through a best friend's diagnosis of breast cancer. And my reasons have changed throughout the years, but I really support the mission of the American Cancer Society and made a commitment that I was going to keep fighting for Shelley. So that's why I'm here.
That's great, absolutely. So we asked you to join us today to just talk about some things that are really near and dear to your heart. So what are the things that you think our volunteers need to hear about?
Well, I think what's really important is when we talk about our core 4 positions on our event leadership team, those are so critical for the success of the event at the local level. And we've got some great resources that are available for these folks to help them be successful. One of which is the VSP on the VLC for the ELT.
Yeah, you know me.
I know you, girl.
So
I know you.
We throw around a ton of these acronyms,
Right.
right? So VLC, Volunteer Learning Center.
Right.
VSP, Volunteer Staff Partnership, right? VLM, Volunteer Leadership Model. So let's spend some time talking through those key success factors, which you spoke to, about our core 4 on the event leadership team and what those successes, and if we do a really great job at a few things that will really bring our events and our community fundraising really up to the top. And so what are those?
Yeah, so we have tons of resources to help our volunteers be successful. And, you know, I mentioned, and we've heard Steve and Zach talk really clearly about the Volunteer Learning Center and some of the resources we have there. One of those of which is a volunteer staff partnership series where you can really hone in that relationship. It is so critical to have a really strong staff partnership and with the volunteers. So there's a series there that they can actually take, and it's critical to do that right from the start.
Right, we talk a lot about being a volunteer-led, staff-supported organization, and so empowering our volunteers to have that knowledge and just that background of what a true partnership is, right? We're both, as a volunteer and a staff partnership, we're both in the same fight for the same reason and working towards the same goal, maybe coming at it from a different perspective, but the end result is still the same. And
Absolutely.
so I think that partnership is an impactful part to really be mindful of.
Yes, most certainly. So there's tons of resources out there. Another is, you know, it's so critical to have really clear, open communication that's going both ways, whether it's coming from your staff and then the Core 4 is sharing it with their team captains and their event participants. It's also important to have that open communication between your support people that you have, the volunteers in your market, whether it's an event mentor or your area lead that's there to support those volunteers that are putting on these events. So there's additional resources, as mentioned, on the Volunteer Learning Center to help with communication, but just being able to share what type of communication works for you, whether it's easier to have a phone call or to meet via email or to have a face-to-face meeting or a combination of all of those things. But there's not just one way to communicate, and it's really critical that you have that agreement on what that looks like for you and how to set yourself up for success.
So you mentioned Core 4 in relation to our ELT. So let's define that for our viewers today and for our relayers around the nation. When we talk Core 4, another pseudo acronym,
Sure.
but what are we really talking about?
We're talking about the event leadership team that's really coordinating and putting together your local relay events. So we have positions that mirror what the actual event is supposed to, components of the event. So there's an event lead. And then we have a people lead that is bringing the people to the event and making sure we have teams. They do recruitment. We also have a lead the experience. And so it's really around making sure you have great activities, things that are going to call people from your community to come to your event. We have a fund the mission lead, and they really do focus on fundraising and getting sponsorships and really where the money goes once we raise all these incredible funds.
Absolutely. Thanks for clarifying that. And then one other thing, we often hear folks will talk about like, oh, we can't. Is that something that we want to maintain, or do we need to have a shift in attitude with our ELTs?
Yeah, so we've adjusted to what our communities want, and so now we need to stop thinking I can't do this, but why not do some of these things and have an open mind. Be open to new experiences, new ideas, new ways of fundraising, new ceremonies. You know, switch up your Luminaria ceremony a little bit. Switch up your survivor lap and make it new, make it fresh, make it different. And that's going to keep your communities coming back year after year.
Absolutely. And we also want to maintain a level of history with our events, things that our volunteers and our communities remember and continue to come back to and continue to talk about. We don't want to throw everything out and just start over, but we definitely want to make some shifts so that we may engage some new volunteers, some new folks in our community as we're moving through that. I think that's something that we also keep in mind. Innovation is a huge topic around the American Cancer Society right now, and we don't want to be so innovative that we lose the history of what the American Cancer Society is doing.
And those impactful ceremonies that
Absolutely.
really mean so much and do bring the people back year after year. But keep it fresh, a new spin on things.
So we've talked about the core four and that event lead, bring the people lead, event experience lead, and fund the mission lead. So what else is happening? How else does that team work together, the core four, with the rest of the crew?
Yeah, so you have to build the really strong relationships. So filling positions on your event leadership team and bringing the teams in, building those relationships not only with the team members but your community. Go out and let your community know about Relay. Build relationships with those people you already have relationships with and bring Relay to them. And let them know what you do. You have to tell everyone what you do. Wear your Relay shirt. Let them know what it is that you do and how you support Relay.
Right. I think so much of what we do, as volunteers, we do this because we want to, because we have a calling for it. It's a passion. And so building those relationships, I mean, I live in California, you live in Florida, but we get to come together and have these conversations, and this brings us together as a partner in this
We're
idea.
buddies. And
We are. It's
Facebook
we're Relay
friends,
buddies.
yeah, and Facebook
absolutely.
friends, yeah.
And I think that relationship, like, we can learn from each other and carrying back and forth, but it's a two-way street in that
It is.
relationship. Absolutely.
Most
So
definitely.
talk to me for a minute about succession planning.
Yeah, so succession planning is so critical. We have, the terms in regards to our positions, and it's important for us to ensure that we're setting our events up for success, and we have somebody that we're thinking of mentoring and bringing in to replace us as we maybe grow through the Relay volunteer experience, or as we roll off or new people join the committee, and making sure that you're setting them up for success so that they can find their next position with Relay is so
Absolutely.
important.
And then we have spoken about Relay for Life as the signature fundraising event for the American Cancer Society. So as an ELT Core 4 member, what does that mean for us as well?
It's so important that we help support the mission. And so we need to walk the walk and talk the talk. So if we're expecting our teams to raise money and to fundraise, as ELT members, we should be also fundraising and supporting the mission.
You know, we often hear that fundraising isn't all we do, but all we do depends on it. And so we need to maintain that level of fundraising. And I can't ask people to go out and raise hundreds of thousands of dollars if I'm not willing to make those asks personally myself.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So
I'm just so excited that you were able to come and
Me
share these
too.
successes. You know, I think that our ELTs really feel that it's a huge undertaking to put on this community-based fundraising event. But truly, we talked about 6 things here. You know, partnership agreements, communicating with all of our volunteers and our teams across the board, making sure that we're asking why not instead of saying I can't. We're also talking about really building a relationship across an ELT within a community, even reaching out to other Relay for Life events and building those relationships to help each other out. We know that we have some event mentors as well as area leads in place. So those are great places to build relationships. Succession planning will really take us far so that we're able to make sure that we're continuing the leadership in our events and maintaining the success, as well as allowing for new innovative ideas, right?
New people, new blood.
New blood. And then also leading by example with that fundraising component. We do have an obligation, I think, to not just tell people they need to fundraise, but I think we need to be fundraising ourselves and
show them
maintain it.
how.
Absolutely. A lot of people don't realize how really easy it is to raise $100 to be a Hope Club member.
Right.
But really, if we are doing that ourselves and maintaining that and talking about it, making it, chatter on Facebook, on Twitter, on Snapchat, those kinds of things, it becomes really easy.
It does.
So thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been great.
Absolutely. So Relayers, just want to remind you to get that chatter going using hashtag #RelayTalk on all your social media as we move on throughout the day today.
Welcome to the Relay for Life Event Leadership Team Support Community Facebook page. This page contains a variety of information for you and your event leadership team to prepare for your local Relay for Life. This is a great way to keep up to date on the latest and greatest in our relay world and share information with other relayers just like you. New videos are uploaded every Wednesday on a variety of topics from recruitment and retention to sponsorship and the customer experience. This page contains training videos for the different positions on your ELT where different volunteers from across the nation share their experiences. You can click on our videos and check out our upcoming events. Please join me in liking and following the ELT support page and this fantastic community of relay volunteers from across the globe that are here to support you and your local ELT.
Thank you for coming and joining me today, you guys. I am surrounded by relay royalty, I have to tell you. So I want to thank Grace, Jeff, Melissa, and Karen for coming to speak with me today. These folks are representing all levels of the American Cancer Society, from campus to Hall of Fame to national volunteerism and a top performing Relay for Life team captain. So, I mean, we just really wanted to come together, and I really, it's very inspiring to sit with the four of you and just kind of be able to talk about what Relay is and how you have maintained your level of engagement in the organization, as well as maintaining a level of relevance in your communities, in your campuses, within your teams, and within the national level to really keep Relay for Life moving forward in this world of constant change and constant shift of, the almost saturation of fundraising events that are taking place, and we're keeping Relay for Life in that top of that conversation. So what do you think of when someone says to you, what does it mean to be relevant?
Well, I mean, for me as a top fundraiser, staying relevant means I've got to let the people who are giving so much money to us know where this money's going, how is it being used, and to make sure that they want to make that investment. And to me, that's the most important thing in staying relevant.
Yeah, I think it's about connecting the dollars to the mission. I mean, we're doing so much work bringing in the income, but we have to focus on the outcomes too. The money that is being raised in our communities is saving lives and improving the quality of life of people. And we need to talk about how we're doing that in our communities and across the country and around the world.
Well, I think the key to all this in every community, I believe, is absolutely making sure the community understands who the American Cancer Society is and what the American Cancer Society is doing in that said community.
Yeah, I know we've been talking a lot about change, but I think relevance asks for a change. It requires that to some extent, that we know Relay for Life is the signature fundraiser of the American Cancer Society, but that there are some elements that we can shift to adapt to the needs or the interest or the culture of the communities that we're in.
So Jeff, you brought up a great point, making sure that the community or your campus knows what the American Cancer Society is doing in that community or how they can assist in that community. So can you talk a little bit about how that conversation goes, or how you connect with that and maintain that you are truly representing the American Cancer Society the best way your community needs you to?
So in every community, the American Cancer Society plays this huge part as it relates to what they're doing in the area of cancer or fighting cancer. And what we do know is we have many constituents that actually choose to activate with the American Cancer Society. I think sometimes our disconnect with our constituents is showing them what that return is. What is the American Cancer Society doing? And then let's bring it down. What is the American Cancer Society doing in my community? For instance, we have many people who receive rides to their treatment. We have many people who receive wigs through our Look Good Feel Better program, but a lot of times that message is not passed down in our community so people can understand what the American Cancer Society is exactly doing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, we have an opportunity at Relay to talk about that. And I'm the ceremonies chair for my event, and I'm really excited to put people on stage this year who have connections and stories about the American Cancer Society. That's my focus, is any speaker on stage has to tell their American Cancer Society story alongside their cancer story. So that's one of the things that we can start to do and infuse, and sometimes you have to find that connection for people because it's not as immediately recognized, because the impacts of the American Cancer Society are far more than most people realize. Maybe they didn't get rides to treatment or a free wig, but the money that we've raised at Relay has funded the treatment that saved their life. And how do we make those connections for them so that they can stand up there with pride and talk about being alive because of the American Cancer Society, thanking the people in front of them, the Relayers who are raising the money because of the impact it's made on their lives.
And for us, it's we have to educate our team so that when they're out in the community and they're touching the people, they can spread that as well. So it's important that we educate them.
And one of the things I think is interesting, so we speak of relevance through the frameworks of Relay for Life, or maybe it could be Strides, or maybe it could be one of our mission integration programs. But I really think low-hanging fruit for us is for everyone to tell their experiences with ACS, because that's outside of the event. Our events are only one time a year, but think about, if your family's been impacted by something the American Cancer Society has done, then I think you can be relevant to someone in your family or in your community by sharing that story with them.
Yeah.
And that brings so much relevance to ACS.
And I love that Steve talked about earlier the Sharing Our Story training. Grace is a facilitator. I facilitated that training. It's just really good to put into words this collection and this vast amount of information about what the American Cancer Society does and be able to find your connection, see yourself in the mission, and impart that to others. And it's one of the best courses I've taken as a volunteer, and I think everybody should log on and sign up.
And I like how Jeff's talking about relevance and sharing your story. I think going from the ceremony level down to the individual level of making an ask to one person, will you relay with me? I think sharing your story, but also adapting your ask to their connection to cancer. I know in the campus market, a lot of the time we're talking to students who really care about economic disparities and communities that don't have as much access to screening or treatment, and being able to connect that need that they care about in their community to the programs that ACS provides can be a really powerful tool of mission and relevance.
And a lot of times we hear, I want the money to come back to my community. We get this all the time, and it's sometimes hard to communicate that. But what we can share is, the money may not be raised, or the cure for cancer may not be found in your community, but you better believe it's going to be found by my community.
Right, I'm not a scientist. That's not my job. I will not find the cure for cancer, but I can be a part of funding the cure for cancer, and I can be a part of sharing how do we do that and how do we fund that cure.
But so then relevance becomes, and I think it's fluid, because then relevance becomes, if the cure is not going to be found in my community, then I have to show people how they connect to that, even if it's found outside of my community. So how are you contributing to what ACS is doing to help absolutely make sure we do find a cure for cancer?
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And as you can see, just our conversation between the four of you, relevance means something different and can be shared in a different way, but it all came back to what is the American Cancer Society doing, and how are the funds that we're raising in our communities and on our campuses changing the face of the American Cancer Society and changing the story to a story of hope and a story of cure instead of a story of sadness. And so
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for spending some time with me. I tell you, inspiring to sit with the four of you. It's very, very great. Thank you so much for
Thanks
joining
for
us.
having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
My teacher said to write a letter to someone that inspires me. You're the only person I wanted to write to. I wear your team shirt all the time. You inspire me because you fought so hard. Even when it looks like you couldn't win. You believe in yourself, so your team believes in you. And that makes me believe I can take on anything.
Hey everyone, I'm Zach Dane again. I'm here with Shelley Sprockie, and she just hosted a wonderful Top Performers Weekend with us. Shelley, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Shelley Sprockie. I am the nationwide lead for the Top Performers. That group is an awesome group of the top events around the nation, 82 teams that raise more than $50,000 a year. And I'm also team captain of Connolly's crew in Thurston County, Washington.
Nice. Nice little shout out. That was pretty good. So what exactly is a top performer? You mentioned it's people that raise 50 grand, but is there anything else to it?
Top performers, really we focus on the events and the teams that are really driving a huge part of the mission for the American Cancer Society. So those teams, each team has to raise at least $50,000 in a year, and those events really have to place in the top 50 events in the nation. And so that's where we draw our focus from.
That's amazing. And during this Top Performers Weekend, you had a chance to visit the Hope Lodge in St. Louis, Missouri. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience at the Hope Lodge here?
It was awesome. For a lot of the top performers that attended, they had never seen a Hope Lodge in action. I'm from Washington State, and we don't have one. And so there's actually not a Hope Lodge within 1,000 miles of my house. And so it was really powerful to be able to see people that were in active treatment, at the lowest part of their life, and we're able to provide something to them at no cost, a home for them to be, a home away from home, and it was awesome to be able to be part of that and see that.
That's awesome. I'm kind of jealous I didn't get to go, but there's a Hope Lodge in my local hometown in New York City, and that's where our American Cancer Society offices are located, and it's a great opportunity for me to see where the money goes and see how what we're doing as volunteers, raising funds for this community-driven or community-based fundraising. It's a great opportunity to see what's happening. So with that, I'm a fundraiser, right? Not as successful as you yet, not yet.
Yeah.
But what can I do in order to become the next Shelley Sprockie or the next Jojo that raising
Let's say you
thousands?
want to raise your relay fundraising game. There's things that really make a big difference.
They really make a difference.
They relay. I see what you did there. Things that are awesome are really stop saying no for people. Don't assume that they can't give, and just don't ask. You give them the opportunity. Sharing your story, sharing why you're doing this, why it's important, that makes a huge difference in how effective your ask is. Ask them to invest in you and what you believe in and what the American Cancer Society is doing. A really great one too is fundraise around the calendar. Mm-hmm. Not only does that give automatic things that come up each year that is repeat fundraising, but it also gives you fun things that you can do where you can come up with a great fundraiser around a theme.
So what drives you year over year to keep continuing to become a top performer and lead this top performers group?
It has to be truly the mission of the American Cancer Society. And one of the things with the top performers is truly recognizing that we have a huge role in fueling the mission of the American Cancer Society. We make an exceptional difference. My teammates know that the $107,000 we raise makes a difference. We are allowing people to stay without cost. We're helping people get to treatment. We're participating in fueling incredible life-saving research that's done by the American Cancer Society.
So what would you suggest to an event leadership team to help them focus on fundraising and moving forward in the fight against cancer?
Give your fundraisers tools. Teach them how to fundraise. We have a really awesome podcast. I'm a podcast junkie. I love it. And so you can listen to it whenever you want. But Fundraising Fridays on there are great. They get great teams, great guests. Twice a week it's updated. It teaches people how to be a better fundraiser. Also, recognize your teams. Recognize your relayers for when they're doing things. Reward the behavior you want to see. Help encourage them by letting them know you see what they're doing and you think it's great and you want to help them move to the next level.
You mentioned the podcast, and you could check out the podcast on Relay Connect, relayforlife.libsyn.com, and also through any social media platform linked to the American Cancer Society and Relay for Life. And some of our great volunteers that have been on this show so far have participated in that podcast, including yourself,
yes.
Right?
Yep.
And what was that experience like, being on a podcast, not live like it is right now, and a little bit more structured in that way?
I was able to convince my kids that I'm famous, but it was really fun because you're able to take things and be able to go back and listen to them and hear from people that are actually making things happen. So like if I want to go hear an awesome fundraiser, I listen to Karen's podcast from Nucor Steel Decatur, And it's one of those moments where it's like, she's actually out there doing this. I can learn from her tips and tricks. I can scale them up. I can scale them down. I love listening to Joe Gillette from Team Relay Daddy in New York, just really seeing how he takes fundraisers and makes them fit his own community and then teaches everyone else how to do them. There is no secrets in Relay. There's no secrets in fundraising, but we can borrow them and make them our own.
What is your favorite event that you've hosted that's a fundraiser that raised any bit of money?
Okay, it would be our big fundraiser, and it's amazing. It's a St. Patrick's Day themed auction and evening. Last year we raised around $70,000 from it in 3 hours, and it's something that I love doing. It combines awesome people, good drinks, and a lot of bidding, and a lot of raise a paddle, and really powerful stories. And
yeah. So if I wanted to continue to fundraise, where can I go to find some different fundraising sources?
you know, if you go on the Relay for Life website, there's a Relay Connect on there. Ton of ideas in there. There's all kinds of stuff. I would use the podcast. Those places are great places to start, where you kind of pour through different things at your own convenience, and work with your event and see what ideas they have, and go from there.
So earlier in the podcast, we were talking, or in the show, we were talking about relevance and bringing things back to community-based organizations or community-driven fundraising, focusing on volunteer-led and staff-supported. And we mentioned the volunteer leadership model. If I want help in fundraising or coming up with these innovative ideas, who can I reach out to?
At your area level, you should have a fundraising lead. There are folks that are volunteers that have walked in your shoes, that have a passion for it. Reach out to them. Talk to your event lead. They can get you in the direction of your area lead to figure out who you need to talk to, and they can get so many tools into your hands. So many times people just don't speak up because they think, I think everyone else around me knows how to fundraise and I don't. And because they're worried about not looking good, they don't say anything. And all you have to do is ask, and there's so many tools that are right at your fingertips.
And that's such a great point. You have to ask. The worst thing you could do is assume it's a no.
Yep.
Because they know what happens when, or you know what happens when they say that you assume. But we're not going to do that. We're not going to assume anything. But it's so important to ask these great questions and to ask people and to make the ask from. You could learn how to do that from our Volunteer Learning Center training called Making the Ask, Beyond the Ask. Both of those sessions are great, volunteer-driven, staff-supported sessions that are designated to help you and all of the volunteers across the volunteer leadership model and at the event level in order to move forward in the mission.
Awesome.
So with regards to fundraising, right, what is the best part of being a top performer?
I will tell you that one of my crowning moments the other night was, we have the Hero of Research Award that launched this year, and any team that raises over $165,000 can name and adopt a research grant that is newly funded and follow its progress from inception to completion. For me, those top teams, you have 5 Point Credit Union, Nucor Steel, Southern Motion, they were crying as they were talking about their grants and why it was so powerful and meaningful to them. I'm not at that level yet, but it makes me want to get our team there, because it was so meaningful for them in realizing what we're doing together. And so for me, that is what motivates me and drives me, and is such a great part of being with this crew and learning from the best.
And we forgot to mention one of the most important features when it comes to fundraising.
The app.
The app. Exactly. Can you tell me a little bit about the app?
I love the app. The app is fantastic. It's something that's right at your fingertips. Everybody has their phone. It is something you can just download the app right to there. You can deposit checks directly to your fundraising instantly, and everybody loves instantaneous gratification. But it also helps alleviate stress on the society, you know, because they don't have to worry about those checks coming through and getting them done. And it's awesome. So I would encourage you, if you haven't, download it.
One important note about the app is that it has the American Cancer Society logo, not a Relay for Life logo, because it is for the American Cancer Society. But Shelley, thank you so much for taking the time and for hosting this great weekend.
Awesome. When do we start?
Relay for Life started with one man in 1985, one colorectal cancer surgeon who wanted to do something to honor his patients. Dr. Gordy Klatt ran for 24 hours around a track in Tacoma, Washington, and Relay for Life was born. The next year, people created teams and joined him. The year after that, more people. But why? What is the magic that makes Relay so successful in communities across the world, from Nairobi to Boston and every community in between? There's nothing like Relay for Life. I don't know how you can explain an event that began with one man and has grown to be the largest not-for-profit fundraising event in the entire world, the largest event in mankind's history. How do you explain that? How do you explain that when you see another relayer wearing their relay shirt at a park, in an airport, at a grocery store, it's an open invitation for a conversation? How do you explain people bringing their newborn child to relay as the first time they introduce that child to the community? How do you explain people getting engaged at relay and even getting married at relay? How do you explain people planning their family reunions at relay and people planning their entire summer vacation around Relay for Life? Cancer patients willing themselves to live another 2 months so they can walk another survivor lap. How do you explain that when we lose cancer survivors, they ask that the Relay for Life logo be engraved on their tombstone? They ask us to lay them in their caskets wearing their relay shirt, wearing their pins, wearing their medals. How do you explain that when a natural disaster hits, Relay is the place people seek to go for a sense of returning to normal, to gather and to heal? In New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, in Japan after the tsunami, in Queensland, Australia after the floods, Relay was the common bond that brought the community together to heal. I don't know of any other brand that can tell you these stories. But the question is why? Why do people tie their self-identity to this badge of honor? Relay is not an event. Relay is a life-changing experience. A place where you get to experience the full range of emotions from utter grief and sorrow to incredible joy and laughter. A place where a survivor will meet another survivor who has had the same cancer and is alive, and hope is born. Where a caregiver will meet another caregiver and realize they have traveled the same path and have found peace. Relay is an experience. Relay is a brand owned by its customers. Leadership teams and communities take their Relay and make it reflective of their culture. It becomes theirs. There are very few simple Relay standards or components that every event must have. You have to have an opening ceremony and a closing ceremony, a luminaria or a remembrance ceremony, survivorship activities, mission activities. We want our events to be tobacco-free and we want them to be annual, but that's it. Beyond that, communities and leadership teams take their relays and make them reflective of their culture. It's theirs. They don't perceive it as corporately owned or corporately driven, coming from somewhere else. It's theirs, and the customer gets to design their experience. We have people that walk 32 miles at Relay because they lost their sister when she was 32. We have people who will run an entire 24 hours. This is their way of fighting back, and it is so symbolic and meaningful. 24 hours. This is unique to many of our Relay for Life events. But why? As we've all heard, it represents the battle that a cancer patient faces over 24 hours. Waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and realizing, I still have cancer. And this is not just the story of the survivor going through this. It's the same story for the caregiver, because they're waking up at 3 a.m. too. 24 hours. You know, no one's trying to replicate this out there. Relay's too unique. We make a statement when we offer our events to stay overnight. We are not shutting down. Cancer takes days and nights away from millions. Days and nights filled with fear, rage, worry, sorrow, loss. We can give one day and one night for hope. And what better statement is that? So why is Relay successful? Cancer is the great unifier. At some point in everyone's life, they will be touched by cancer. And you're not alone. At Relay, you're with your community. Relay brings people together, people from all walks of life who may not have any reason to know one another, except they are united by a shared experience, cancer. Relay builds a family of people who have suddenly found each other walking on a track, a feeling of camaraderie that can strengthen a community. It's a brand that is a gift. How many people have we invited to Relay? You get them there and they watch that survivor's lap and they walk up to you and all they say is, I get it. And they realize the gift. Relay creates a strong sense of identity. People are proud to say they're a relayer. In fact, we use it as a noun, an adjective, a verb, an adverb. We use it for everything. Relay works because it's about survivors and caregivers, these two huge populations of people that need healing and hope. And Relay is tangible proof that that hope exists. It allows you to see the very best in people. It's a safe place to tell your stories and experience emotion. It's an event and an experience that anyone and everyone can participate in. Cancer has to be the most feared disease, and Relay allows us the opportunity to release the fear, even if for just one day, one night, or both. Picture 400 people waiting for opening ceremonies to begin. In that opening ceremony, people will learn about our fight against cancer, the history of Relay for Life and the American Cancer Society, and the global movement to eradicate cancer. They will watch 80 survivors take that opening lap. When they go to the Luminaria ceremony at night, they will hear the stories of 3 caregivers and the struggles they've been through. And come the next morning, a gentleman will walk over to a couple of the leadership team members and say thanks. Thanks because he had lost his brother 6 months ago, but his brother's children did not cry that day. And they didn't cry for 6 months. But after participating in the Luminaria ceremony last night, they went back to their tent and they cried for the very first time. And he said thanks, because now I know they'll be okay. You are part of a global family of relayers fighting cancer, and this experience belongs to you.
Oh, yeah.
Relay the brand. That's such a powerful statement. I mean, I think I've been a relayer for quite a long time, and I really identify as a Relay for Life volunteer.
Not just a Relay for Life volunteer, but an American Cancer Society volunteer.
Absolutely, and I don't think that I would be able to say that I'm an American Cancer Society volunteer if I wasn't so invested and connected with Relay for Life and that emotion and those stories. You know, listening to that video and seeing those images come through, it really tells the story of what we do and how we connect with different folks and really maintaining a level of being relevant within our communities, right? And we've been talking a lot about what that means and how that affects other people, and going through Relay the brand. That brand is something, you know, that logo is something. My own children see it and automatically like, oh, it's a Relay, let's go. You know, they're little, but they get that connection of Relay means helping people. Relay means solving the world problem with cancer. But what is that? How do we maintain that level, and what do we keep doing? And I think we had a great day today talking about that.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we could easily do is just get involved. I've never realized, especially after today, how easy it can be to fundraise. It takes some time, it takes effort, it takes planning and preparation. It's going to take some work, but it is easy to do if you know who to get in contact with and you know how to use social media. So throughout this entire broadcast, we've been using hashtag RelayTalk, and we encourage you to continue to use that hashtag to talk and ask questions and just share your best practices. You can also do that through Relay Connect. And through Relay Connect, there's so many great resources. It's not even funny how much information is on Relay Connect, right? Relay Connect, Brand Toolkit, the Volunteer Learning Center, relayforlife.libsyn.com. All of these different resources that we have available for us and our volunteers, they're there for volunteers because it is volunteer driven and staff supported. So let's utilize that. Let's focus on that. And let's move the mission of the American Cancer Society forward.
Absolutely. I got to sit today with like Relay rock stars, Relay royalty, and it was so cool to listen to the perspective of a top performing team captain and what that means to be relevant and bringing revenue into the American Cancer Society and a campus volunteer, and how the mission is the same and our purpose is the same, but we go about it in different ways. And I think that was really a great way to resonate with everyone, that we can have similarities, but we can approach things in a different way, whatever meets our expectations and whatever meets the needs of our communities. So we did talk about the 3 R's today. We talked about relationships and the importance of building our relationships and how those relationships differ across from an event leadership team to different level of leadership, as well as a relationship within your community. We talked about being relevant.
We spoke about being relevant in the community. That's a huge one, because if you're not relevant and you're not doing what your community wants, why are we doing it? All this weekend, we've had great conversations, and during all of these conversations, we're like, well, if it's what the community wants, Let's do what they want. Let's support the community. And you'll notice with our volunteer leadership model, the community is at the top.
Absolutely.
And the national volunteers are on the bottom because we want to push up and support those area level volunteers
Absolutely.
and the local ELTs.
As we started today with the top 82 teams in the nation, clearly they have become relevant in their community because they're still able to fundraise and bring in that last R, revenue, right? And so that's something to definitely aspire to. You know, I am not a top performer, but man, wouldn't that be awesome to be able to have impact like that?
And raising revenue is not that difficult, but it's so important. So we spoke about some of the things that we do with those funds. We spoke about Hope Lodge. We spoke about this top performers meeting. We speak about the services and the programs that we provide to cancer patients and their families. Most of these, if not all, are free of charge. And having Hope Lodge in St. Louis, in New York City, in all of these different cities around the country, it's such a great way for people to get engaged and see the mission of the American Cancer Society in action.
And I think that there's also something we can't necessarily see with the American Cancer Society, the mission, but the 800 number, right? It's there 24 hours a day, 24 hours, 7 days a week. You can call that phone number and get any kind of information that you need, but that's something that our revenue stream is able to maintain and go through. So we want to thank you all today for spending some time with us and really being a part of this first ever Relay Talk, right? We hope to see this kind of maintain a strategy as we go through, as well as we really want to move off. You know, it's January, so that's the time of resolution. So we want to have a relay resolution. Really, what is it that you're going to do to continue to be relevant, to bring in revenue, and to build relationships in your communities, in your ELTs, in your volunteer staff partnerships? So we'd like to charge you with a little task, a call to action.
We want you to get on all of your social media and record yourself with your new year, new relationship, and your new year resolution for what you want to do for Relay for Life.
Absolutely. How can you make an impact for the American Cancer Society to continue that revenue stream? Make sure you go ahead and use our hashtag RelayTalk so that we can continue to see these conversations going. We'd like to leave you today with a few resolutions that came in already.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi y'all, I'm Emily Tier. I'm an area lead based in Binghamton, New York. My 2018 Relay resolution is to empower more volunteers to take leadership roles in Relay for Life.
Hi, my name is Delilah Moore Keys, and I'm the area lead for the state of Missouri. My 2018 Relay resolution is to empower my Relay volunteers to be successful in their roles by providing them training, mentoring, and lots of love, aka recognition.
Hi, I'm Chris Atherton, area lead for the state of Illinois. My Relay resolution for 2018 is to enjoy the connections with more volunteers this year as we work harder to reach our mission of saving lives, celebrating lives, and being the lead in the fight against cancer.
How's it going? We're KU Beta Sig, and our Relay for Life goal is to bring 100 new members to the KU Relay for Life.
Beta Sig, go Relay!
Hi, I'm Adam Revore, and I relay at Tarrant High School in Minnesota. Individually, I want to hit the Grand Club level, and as a relay team, I want to increase community engagement.
Aloha, this is Lee from sunny Hawaii in Hilo. I want to let you know that my resolution for 2018 for Relay for Life is to step out of my box more often, get out of my comfort zone. I realize it's not a false alarm when a patient hears you have cancer, and I want to do my best to get people involved, make those asks, raise the money, do what we can to make Relay better, and sometimes I have to just step out of my comfort zone and do that. It's not a test, and I need to do the best I can this year. Aloha!